What was the need of Marvel? A clear business opportunity for ICICI Bank to establish something significant franchisee for Bitcoin. Now we started the project sometime in September. Over last few months, we have built a lot of tools, capability, processes to basically streamline end-to-end processes, especially from the credit point of view. Now this page illustrates the launch that we did on 30th of Feb. You will see the key leadership, which was quite basically instrumental in launching the Marvel for us, and a few messages, some of the messages you heard in the morning as well. Why we are doing the Marvel? Number one, basically going for the granular growth. So within segments, within sub-segments, trying to optimize profitability, sustainable profitability. Number one is making significant incremental, significant exponential growth. Not just looking for incremental growth, but making something more meaningful in nature. And finally, I think we discussed about this a lot in the morning. Mindset and how we can use Marvel as a new way of working and running the MCG business. So these are the 2-3 aspirations set by leadership when we launched on 13th of Feb. Now, next few pages I will show you how we have built tools to deliver these aspirations. So, as I mentioned earlier, we started few months back, and whatever you are going to see, whatever capabilities, processes you are going to see, it's a result of a very collaborative process across different levels. If you see, we have done a series of workshops, series of joint working sessions, series of one-on-one discussions with the senior leadership team as well. So in all, whatever we have for MCG segment, it is highly relevant for MCG segment and has been tested on our history. So whatever we have built in terms of trade engine, whatever we have built in terms of trade process, we have tried to ensure best from our side. It is very relevant for us. So what are the two things that we have built? Right? You'll see lot on this page talking about credit. Typically, from the mindset of the business and the front line and the credit and the sales, when we talk typically about credit, first thing that comes in our mind is like process, the technology and the ICOS about it, right? The workflow. If you see on the left hand side, we are specifically talking about the credit underwriting. Now, what we want to build is something using the data. Imagine a new customer coming to the bank. Whatever data we have internally to the bank, whatever data we have externally to the bank, we want to use that data and our experience, our capabilities to come up with a very rigorous assessment of credit worthiness of that customer. So that's part of the credit underwriting. So we have used different sort of data. We have done a lot of benchmarking to come up with a set of modules, sub-modules, which will allow us to measure the credit worthiness of the customer. A big part of our work has been on the credit underwriting engine itself. Now, on the right-hand side, you will see credit process and technology, something which you are more familiar with, which is basically how we have then used this credit modules and sub-modules in an organized manner and facilitated through a process. So not just it allows us to do a rigorous assessment of the customer, but in a most effective and efficient manner. So these are the two elements, basically ensuring that we are doing the right and rigorous assessment of the customer, and second, using technology and processes in a most efficient manner. Now, at a high level, I will quickly illustrate how the journey will look like when we start using Marvel for our work. So I think with all the processes, it starts with our frontline meeting the customer. I think one of the things in the morning was, can the whole document collection part be streamlined? So one big effort has been on streamlining the documentation and pre-screening criteria for the customer. So basically, so that we all have clarity, so that we all have transparency of which sort of customer we can accept, which sort of customer we cannot accept. And if we accept those customers, what are the 20 different documents that are needed? And out of those documents, which are mandatory, which are optional. So full clarity and transparency on document collection and pre-screening. Now, using those document data, leverage all the data, both internal to the bank, which is basically the past transactions, for example, of the customers, or if the existing customers, his repayment behavior, and external data, for example, bureau history, financial audited financial that customer are submitting, using that for the underwriting purposes. Then if we have ICOS, the ICOS that we have built, the pre-populating that ICOS. So I think one of the feedback that we kept getting was why I have to enter everything every time. Why can't be pre-populated? So both internal and external data pre-populating into ICOS to the extent it is possible today. Then now, especially in the MCG and the higher segment, what we have seen is there's a lot of rework that happens between the front line and the credit. One of the reasons is now there are, for example, I'll take example of financials. Now there are a set of things that need to be checked into financials. Credit might think some further explanation needed because some of the parameters look doubtful. And if RM knew upfront, or if sales knew upfront that this needs to be explained, they could have done a better job. Now, to avoid rework in these kind of situations, we have designed a concept of automated flags. So what are the 10, 15, 20 things which we have to be very careful, and the system will automatically trigger it for you before even the case gets submitted for credit appraisal. So this is also a big deviation from what some of you have seen on the SME side as well. Finally, I think Partha had a very stressed about few facts in the morning: standardized and consistent credit appraisal. So this element is basically, now we have all the data, now we have information from the ICOS. With that in mind, how we can do a standardized and consistent and rigorous at the same time credit assessment for the customer. And finally, for approval and sanctioning purpose, how can we have streamlined output from the ICOS, which we all know is a credit note. So we put a lot of effort to systemize it, make it more systematic, synthesize it, make it shorter, but at the same time not lose the essence of the credit appraisal. So these are the 5-6 elements that we have built. Now, just reflecting on the two elements, the underwriting engine and the credit processing technology, I'll spend some time on talking about both. So starting with the credit underwriting engine, I was talking about the internal and external data. These are some of the details of it. On the left, I hope all of you can see, on the left hand side you will see something on the top which is a quantitative module, then you will see qualitative module, and then additional supporting tool. What it means. Now we all know that when the application is created, there are a lot of data that you can access. Typical data that we are using for assessment is all the financial that customer is submitting to us, and all the bureau data. Now, I think one thing which will come to your mind is what is the difference, because you have been using this kind of data even in the earlier phases as well. Now the big difference is all of this used in a sort of scorecard fashion, which is fully automated, and which basically takes, of course, built on the ICICI history, and which creates a score out of it. So going from, let's say, manual review of the financials or bureau to a more systematic and scorecard based review of the quantitative data. Then qualitative, I'm sure a lot of you would have done the credit appraisal. When you do the credit appraisal, if you see any of the credit memos or the note from the past, you will see a lot of information about the customer, about the business, about the owner, about the buyer supplier. Now there's a lot of scattered information. What we have tried to do is to synthesize that scattered information, which used to be assessed in a judgmental, in a sort of subjective manner, to a set of questions which can be assessed in a much more objective manner. So I'll show you some example of the qualitative modules. So we have done two sort of qualitative module. One is which applies to all sort of business, but we went much further to that. What we also done is taking our top 5-7 industries and creating specific questionnaire, which can again be used in an objective manner for scoring. So base called it 7-8 question. On the right hand side, you will see supporting tool, which is the GST module, which is how do we use the GST data for validation purpose, for risk assessment purpose. Sentiment analysis, which is basically using the publicly available information of the customer and the sector for credit appraisal. And ICAPS, which is basically how can we, in an automated fashion, how can I analyze the banking statement to understand more about the customer. So these are the 8-9 modules we are using. What is the so what? Number one, using these modules allows us to generate a score, a PD. I think we talked a bit about the PD in the morning, but that basically means is we can basically with a single number we know whether the customer can be accepted or rejected. It is modular. For example, if the customer has different scenarios, for example, due to technical error, the CIBIL report is not generated, then ICAPS will throw a notification. So basically, it doesn't assume that everything is populated and will proceed. So it is modular and works in that fashion. And finally, most of all, it is highly predictive. So we did a statistical backtesting of the scorecard, and we found what we have built is highly predictive and in line with the best scorecards we have seen for this segment.
Can you elaborate on sentiment?
So look, historically, I'm sure even in ICICI we'll have industry research team, right? Which basically on a regular manner, in a systematic manner, analyze the industry. But a lot of it is sort of manual, right? You go through reports, analyst reports, download articles from Factiva for different industries. Instead of doing that, what we do is we combine automation, which is using these reports in an automated fashion, and analytics, using it through machine learning to come up with a industry score. For example, when I'm taking example of, let's say, auto. I will pull out, let's say, the relevant reports for auto in last 3-4 quarters. I will analyze it in an automated fashion using analytics, and I come with a single score, and I will show you the trend over last few quarters that will tell you what is basically the future forward outlook for auto for MCG segment.
So that gets linked to the PD score?
No, it is not getting linked to the PD score at this point of time. It is sort of a credit overlay on top of the PD score. So it is one of the.
And one more thing, Ranga, what this 6 and 7 is, you won't see it from March mid when we launch it to some road cases. There is work in progress, so we need to do, because essentially the engine is built. Now, which are the databases we should sort of go and ping it for will be limited. So essentially the Google search piece, instead of doing it randomly and Google goes by search. So that's how, Trump is visiting, but there is a negative word used for him that gets searched very highly. I don't want to name the word, but that will come up automatically. Whereas this will be based on the databases which we can link it to. So this is work in progress, and we have to also give clear transmission to all of you that how will we use it, because both these are pending at the moment.
But why is it for 6, sir? Because 6 already you have a GST.
No, GST we want to revalidate financials.
Okay.
Only the turnover validation is available in the bank, but we want to go beyond turnover
We'll show you some
validation.
example of what we
Yeah,
intend to do.
yeah.
The input credit, what you are saying about.
Not only that, there are many
purchases.
things which are possible.
Yeah, planning to
GST,
automate.
what turnover is just like
Just one of the
one
parameters.
and one small parameter. Turnover is just one bit. So
One more thing. See, how do you?
Maybe the industry, future is not looking that promising or something, but there could be outliers who are the game changer. So should it
So absolutely. So I think first of all, as for what Rajesh is saying, this is work in progress. But the thing is, you're right. Even within industry, there can be outliers. Now, basically, the second step after sentiment is the relative comparison of the. So if industry is going down and the customer is performing well, then actually you will not penalize the customer. You will give him more points. So we are very very cognizant of that kind of aspect. So it will not be a plain vanilla application of any of these, by the way, because whatever you see on this page is at a customer level. So nothing is overall industry level. So even the output will be customized and overlaid for the assessment of the customer.
one thing about the commercial credit bureau, sometimes commercial credit bureaus do give up give on some false alarms. The sense that CIBIL, I have seen CIBIL gives a rating for company SMEs at least. They give a CER and CMR rating. Suddenly the rating goes down and then we go by 2 notches, and we go there, we don't see anything wrong with the company. It's just that they stopped borrowing more, they've gone to less borrowing, but then it has rated them below. It has just downgraded their rating.
Right.
So these kind of false alarms are thrown by commercial credit
Right.
bureaus. So how do we deal with that? Can we override it? And the second part of my question is how we allocated the weightage between quantitative and qualitative models?
Right.
Because quantitative, obviously, you will have
Right.
tangible data.
Right. Number one, first of all, the scores that you have seen on the grid, we are not using those scores. We have basically leveraged for our customers historical data, and we basically created something which is customized for us, right? Which is not the score that you have seen in the past. So these are not the bureau score that typically the CIBIL reports. But even having said that, in future, you will come up with the situations where you will see the output and you will probably sort of disagree with it, right?
Yes.
I'm sure you'll find those situations. Now, see what we are trying to do. We are trying to do is take out subjectivity from it and put in a more objective manner. Now, basis what we have developed, we are very confident that those cases will be limited and rare to you. That's why we are doing thorough testing. I'm sure I'll go show you some examples how we have built this, right? Having said that, the kind of business that we are writing, we still want some sort of conformity that what we are doing right or not. I think for those situations, at least what we discussed in the first few months, I think if we feel that we disagree with what system is coming out, we hope that it is rare, but we still feel, I think, the case should be discussed further.
Sure. One more thing I want to ask was, what is the weightage between quantitative and qualitative models? And will we get this item-wise scores when we get the overall score from this thing? So that we can always see where it is.
I'm happy.
If you want to
I don't know
analyze
if we
further.
can share the weightages but happy to at an overall level.
Overall level you can.
Yeah, overall I think the quantitative is about actually 60-70%.
Okay.
Qualitative is the remaining.
Okay. And will we be able to see the item-wise scores when we run for a client?
No, I don't think you can see the.
That will be the model, right? So
So suppose we see one item pulling down and we disagree with why it is pulling down. So how will we know that it is pulling down?
see, it's a good question. That doubt even all of us will have. The aspect is to see that how do you sort of generate one score out of all the variables. Okay. Now this has been back tested and tested again. The idea is that if you meet the TMN norms, and that is the testing we have done, most of the cases in the TMN norm, in fact, out of 21 we tested, 20 just go through. One had an issue, and in the issue sense, the PD was high. And when I saw the case, I didn't disagree. When Bala and Shilpa showed me the case, I didn't sort of disagree with the PD as much. So it is like our thought process will have to change. That believe that the engine is directing you towards the right set of variables. That is what should be the focus. And if we focus on onboarding in the way I just articulated, that follow the TMN, that is the pre-screening, you will have a very good rate of success, is what we believe. So even then, there has been authorization built, is what Shobit was referring to, but there should be very few cases like that.
For this segment, we shared with the project team, which comprised of senior leadership from business, credit, risk, right? Then we did a lot of workshops to ensure that what we are basically thinking is in line with what experience we have for.
I don't know whether we'll incorporate this time or not, but maybe as a feedback also. See, a lot of times we get proposals which are externally rated also, right? and so obviously they want finer pricing, right? But and if the exposure is less than 30 crore, we have to do it under a program case, right? And a program typically has more than what the customer may be enjoying externally, right? So obviously the return on equity is lower, the ROE when we propose on the pricing which a customer should enjoy. So I was wondering if you are able to incorporate that. Have you the external rating somehow is influencing the PD score? Only for the fact that it helps give us a good ROE, and obviously acquiring a A-rated kind of a customer becomes slightly easier, because obviously then you are able to give him a finer pricing than what you typically want to give to a typically family customer. Just I don't know if you have done it this time, fantastic. If you're not being able to do it this time, maybe as a feedback.
No, that's a fair input. I would say at this point of time, the rating that you will see out of this system has no relation or bearing from the external rating that you will see for certain customers, which are externally rated as well. So we are not using external rating as an input to the system. I mean, having said that, I think we can also discuss from the pricing point of view.
Is that, I think, follow the 5x22 approach. I think all of you know that, right? So if you follow that approach, now I want to make this point, is that if you want to enter a good customer, we are not barring you from offering a finer pricing, but you should be able to begin with the end in mind. That what is it that you will deliver in 12 months with the client, and so should the client be also clear that what will he deliver with us. We are allowing onboarding of such a case. I think we should not leave out a good credit, because return of capital is paramount for us. So therefore the pricing, if you are indeed, I know that external rating is important. If you find such dilemmas, we should use it in that manner.
It's not about whether we right now onboarding. I'm sure somewhere down the line we would want to see what is the ROE we're making on it, because we keep getting that, right? So when you are getting a A-rated customer, so then the exposure is that standalone rating. So not that the business should be penalized on top of the ROE rate, because the customer
Well, that's what I'm saying. As long as you can get other income, see, NII, asset NII should be the least of the important things. As long as we can get the whole ecosystem, nobody will question us. Let me assure you that. I'm telling you that that will not be a problem. So,
we would want to get the other ecosystem into the business, but I'm sure we are also living in a competitive world, so I'm sure there will be others also will be vying for the same business. So, maybe getting a smaller pie of the chart, the smaller.
so वही बात है ना. See, Sandeep, we have to increase that pie. See, how will we be a different outcome? Somebody asked that question even in the morning. Is only when we become a liability-focused asset group. If we are that, I'm telling you, 3 years down the line, we should be cutting so many more cakes on those milestones. But if you are an asset-focused and also do liabilities, we'll always remain also ran. You know, we don't want to be that.
From a rating perspective, particularly A-, there's a corporate lending forum where it is A- and above. You are ready to the program and take it straight away there. So there the pricing is decided by.
But your question, less than 30 crore case you can't take it.
CLP. That is.
Less than 30 crore case you can't take it. Less than 30 crore has to be done a program. Mandate है ये.
Just a moment. Let me clarify that. See, the idea of Marvel is that we will do program as in our bloodstream. We should only do program cases. That is the whole idea. So even if a case is A+ rated, there is a pricing issue. Our track record should make the program upgrade. Nobody is stopping you from doing a case. Okay. So let that be clear from my side. That doesn't mean we cannibalize pricing to an extent which is not great. If there is justification, we are clearing cases. There is no, we will get beaten up as questioning from our seniors, but we will take that 12 to 14 month time in which we have to make the money. So let us represent it in that manner.
So my question was on CLF perspective. Just one. So one was if we see it is less than 30, more than 30, obviously no issue. It's taken, no brainer. less than 30, do we also move it through Marvel? And though there is a CLF program under which we can get it sanctioned, just for the purpose of the database is created, and we know the history, and when renewal comes in, we can proceed, because that becomes the DNA for A minus and above.
So one clarification, Sandeep. Here in this module, you actually rating the proposal. It is not a program rating what you are getting. PD score, finally PD score will be a kind of rating, and based on that rating you can price yourself.
So,
Please asking about whether the weightage of the external rating is for the proposal. So that is what.
So, just, I think we have 2 more days, we can discuss it. But just to say that I think that is absolutely right. This is not a program rating that will, for individual customer will come. The rating will come from the module that you have seen earlier, and basically then.
So one more addition from the background I have experience. So at the end of the day, whatever score you get over here, that's fine. From a bank's book perspective, the external rating is used for capital computation of the bank. If it's A minus and above, you get 20% capital allocation.
Right.
And if triple B plus and below is 50% allocation. So we may have a better program rating, or we may not have A minus at the moment, but when this account is created, when the UCC is created, the external rating is mapped for the bank's capital. So it will be a better capital allocated account if everything matches.
But which is very standard as well. So if you see when the rating migration happens, I'll just speak 1 minute about this from my experience. Typically when you start doing the rating for the customer, I think the regulator requests you to run that internal rating for some time before you can start allocating the capital. Before you can start allocating the capital using the new rating system. So I think at this point of time.
Not the moment, that's been deferred till next year.
We do it
Right.
externally.
In
So-
case when it comes in, that will get implemented.
So what we
Internal
should
system.
see in the beginning years of a business, we should work on the absolute numbers, and that is what we should work on. Automatically the ROE will speak for itself as we create a portfolio which is like A or A minus. That should be our aim. Our aim should be that indeed the portfolio is like a A minus or A. Then we will break records, because in the bank otherwise we are not doing that. We are creating delinquencies of the range of triple B minus in the past. Therefore, our capital allocation is like that. So it's for this room to deliver. If we deliver delinquencies in the manner I just articulated, it will come. But you have to be patient for it. And in the meanwhile, we are saying that be priced into the market, and we'll do the case. That's very clear.
One thing I wanted to ask, this ROE calculation, will it be different in case of Marvel, or it will be the same calculator which we use?
Same calculation.
So when we calculate the ROE, the important factor is internal rating, and the whole ROE changes as per the internal rating. So ROE as for triple B plus or triple P or triple B minus are different. So far we have been using triple B internal rating for our program sanctions. Marvel will throw, you are saying, a different rating to each customer. So in that case, while calculating, we will be using different internal ratings.
Yes, for each
So it
case.
will- So that means Marvel can even throw A bracket rating to a program
Yes,
sanction
yes,
case.
that's correct.
So even triple A, double A can come under program.
It is.
Okay.
Yes.
So the
Renu, but ROE is not only rating.
no, it's much
Yeah,
more.
ROE is like,
It's much more.
it's a much more complex calculation.
It's a
than
much
this.
more.
FR, I think, plays a big value.
I think I will just,
It's
because
one of the factors. One of the
I think last,
So one of the important factors for ROE, for the interest of all, and the last 10 seconds. So the security creation is the biggest differentiator for your ROE calculation as per PIVG. You may have A, that will be second step, but if it's A minus also and security is not created, you may get a ROE of 4%, 5% negative also. But if it's created and it is 1.4 times of your total coverage, you can get 25% of the ROE for the same book, same pricing, same asset. Nothing. That's one biggest differentiator.
valuation also. So valuation is pending, then it's the
we did started with sitting together, sharing our experience, getting inputs, and then we did a lot of data back testing, both for qualitative and quantitative modules. I think the team worked across like different, like using data from different sources for bureau, for financial, extensive data build creation, data lake creation to come up with the statistical models. This is the example. I think a lot of you have already seen. If you see on the left hand side, the base QCA is about 30-35 questions across 7-8 categories. And specifically, we have industry specific question for about 8 industries and sub-industries. Now, what is the process that we followed? It's fairly standardized process, but at the same time interactive as well. We started with sort of series of brainstorming workshop where we shared our experience, took the input from you. Then we did a prioritization. There are out of 400 factors, what are the 80-90 factors that we think are relevant for MCG? Then we went and did the data back testing for these 80 factors. So the set of 30-35 factors that we see right now, what are these factors? What does it mean for us? I mean, once you see it, you can also challenge why the certain qualitative factor is not there. I'll just spend a couple of thoughts on that. Number one, they are all statistically validated. They work for us in the past. If I look into the past cases. Number two is they are very relevant for us. We looked across the files. We didn't find any situation where we think at least we can see getting the answer to the questions will be very difficult, or this question does not make sense for an MCG customer. So they are relevant. They are very predictable. And number three is the way we are going to deploy it is also, I think, over the next 2 days, you will see it will be very systematic and very objective. One is, of course, the most obvious one, the validation check. Both from the turnover point of view and also a cross-module point of view. Because now we are saying, look, we are getting the information from the bank statement, we are getting the information from the customer, what is customer reporting himself, and we have GST as well. So not just doing the triangulation of revenue, using just the GST and comparing it against what customer is saying, but doing this triangulation across and seeing whether it all makes sense. So validation. Auto population using the GST data can be basically for the top buyer supplier can be auto populate the information. Intelligent create insights. For example, using the GST data, risk specific triggers that we can see can be thrown up to the for the process. For example, is there any defaulting status or late filing status, or is the customer has any product specific or region specific concentration that can be detrimental from the credit point of view. Last but not the least, the new business opportunities. What we have seen is GST not just from the credit and risk point of view, but from the business point of view throws a lot of information. And if we basically can read that information and tell the front line, okay, not just look into what customer is reporting in terms of GST, but are there more opportunity? For example, product or cross sell. Is customer you see a lot of trade related entries. And can we cross-sell, let's say, BG and bill discounting or LC related products to the customer as well, in a more systematic and automated fashion. So these are the 4 use cases that we have that we are attempting for GST. I think sentiment analysis that we really talked about. I'll just quickly on the right hand side, this is the counter output we are envisioning. That for particular industry and till the extent the information is possible for specific customers as well. What is the trend of the industry sentiment, and what are on the right hand side you will see if as a user I want to deep down double click on specific items. For example, auto sales is going down, white is going down, so system will also provide, you can double click and see more information.
Certain documents, only for purpose of validating the turnover. There are various other documents which, based on those documents only, you could able to analyze those.
Right.
So going forward, is it required to collect all the documents, or how is it? Are these can be checked for the document collection?
So of course, I think what we are putting together from my time is a systematic process first of all, right? When RMs is going to meet the customer, then what kind of question he needs to ask customer so that he gets the GST data. I think whether we are going to make it mandatory or not probably will also depend on different programs or.
So what we want to do in GST is that create a module which is not there part of the Marvel today. We enable the customer to share data through the mechanics which the GST has itself built. Therefore, through the OTP module, we'll end up getting and pulling a lot of data. Now, does that mean that the culture of engagement with the customer changes? Yes, they will have to start giving this. My sense is, in 3 to 4 years, all banks will start doing it as a rule. Like today, we can't do certain things without getting the first GST return. All banks are doing it. 3 to 4 years, everybody will do it, like we do retail credit today.
Got it. We are going to collect
Company operates in 10 states. They will have 10 GST numbers because that is how the sharing of revenue has to be done. Today, the GST, the way it is enabled is through GST numbers, and therefore he will have to share 10 OTPs with the system, and it will give total access to the bank of his 10 states what is happening for the period that he gives.
It's sort of authorization.
So it's a sort of authorization. So it's a very automated way. In initial periods, we will have companies, those who have nothing to hide will always give it to us. And I think that is the regimen in which we are going to function as a country. Slowly it is changing, right? So we should be ready for that. That's the idea. We'll not make it mandatory, of course, in year 1 or even year 2 it may not be mandatory. But will we track it as a culture enablement with our customers? Yes, we will do
Some of
that.
you already may have seen it. Basically, how do we use the bank statement in a systematic, automated fashion to come to certain insight, which includes validating the business turnover, identifying the key risk parameters. For example, split of debit, credit, different sort of transactions, identifying the additional business opportunity, just like what I was talking about the GST. How can we use the bank statement to figure out what else can be cross-sold to the customer? And basically, sort of intelligent recommendations for the RM. For example, if the customer has missing salary payments or delayed salary payment, high utilization, so you, throwing it automatically in iCaps. So this is one component. Now, we basically talked about, if I go back to the first slide where I was talking about 2 things, underwriting engine and the process and technology. These slides we talked about the components of the underwriting engine. Now, a bit about the process as well. Now, yeah. So basically, if you think of the overall process end to end, there are basically four sort of sub processes within end to end application submission to sanction process, which is lead generation, preparing the notes and submitting it for appraisal and doing the detailed evaluation, and finally pricing and approval. Now, yeah. So if you see, this is the illustration of the end-to-end Bitcorp ICOs that all of you are going to see. Now, what is different about this, right? So there are 4 or 5 things which we have tried to optimize, and of course, as Suprita mentioned in the morning, that based on our experience on SME as well. Number 1 is you see is that first of all, the size of it. I think the previous version had about 4950 screens, so now we have about, let's say, 30% less screens, right? Not just for the sake of it, we did a proper workshop where we basically sat with a lot of people to understand what can be kept, what can be removed, what can be streamlined. So lean optimization of the ICOs, number 1. Number 2 is providing the functionalities for automated inputs. So for example, if you see the, let's say number 14, financial upload, where basically we can upload the Excel for financial and ICOs will automatically read it. Similarly, some of the screens upfront where we basically can automate, in an automated fashion, we can link to the external databases to get the information. So number 2 is basically automated input. Number 3 is the streamlined credit part of it. So if you look at the bottom of it, the streamlined proposal note, which is basically, we are saying it's 4 pages long. We think it is granular, and we think it's going to work. Now you'll of course have a lot of details, other details as well, but just this version of ICOs has much more streamlined version of Note as well. Number 4 is basically what we also tried to do in this version of ICOs is allowing for parallel processing between business and credit. So the functionality basically, there will be view access where credit team can also log in and see the details of it. Number 5 is, see, I was referring to the rework and getting this concept of flag. So if you see the number 14, where you see flags for review, the system will automatically pop up what are the 10, 15, 20 things which need to be reviewed before and specifically from the financial assessment point of view, before the case gets submitted. So overall, a leaner version allows parallel processing, allows automated inputs, throws up flags, provides a systematic and lean credit summary. So this is what our attempt has been on ICOS.
Business and credit.
But I think
Correct.
what
Within business system, there are two levels.
Yeah, so what
ARM
will
and RM.
happen?
Suppose ARM is creating and RM wants to edit some piece of it
Yeah.
parallelly. Will it allow?
Yeah, so if one guy logs out of the system, the other guy can log in and edit.
No, I think what happens in the workflow currently is that the ARM will fill the node. After filled, it will first go to the RM for validation before it moves on to credit. Now, to your point, whether the RM can parallelly validate if the ARM has started filling in details, I think we'll consider that right now. We have not done concurrent entry by RM and ARM right now. Yeah, RM is more a validator to what an ARM has done.
No,
But
what-
can the RM make changes to the node after ARM is submitted? Because the current ICOS, which is in SMEAG, does
They
not.
Does not
actually
allow
submit
that.
it back to the ARM, who is then requested to make the changes.
Yeah.
The
Correct,
ARM
correct.
doesn't make the changes.
That's how it was
the way
happening.
It's designed even right now over here. But we take your input. We'll just see if how
And
that
the
can
same
be.
thing is there even on the credit side.
It's the similar approach
Yeah,
as
the
you're
analyst
right.
will be able to enter and the
The
TL
team
only
lead will
can
send it
reject.
back to the analyst.
Yeah, can only reject
So we
it.
take your point. I think it's designed in a similar way the way it was in
Another
SME.
thing, as a BCP, suppose an ARM is out of the field or something, he is unable to enter.
Sure.
Can I ask another ARM to fill up the piece for instead of him? So that I know the subject very well as an RM. I'll just ask him to do X, Y, Z. Some other ARM can do it. Will that be allowed?
Then I think we will take these points down. We will see how they can be tackled.
On ICOS until tomorrow we have a very detailed session. I'm sure a lot of you have a lot of questions. But we have a detailed walkthrough of ICOS tomorrow, where we basically take a case and go through the end-to-end process.
Yeah, it will be a combination of these two. One is a set of some 6-7 basic goal.
Can I jump to model without filling your demo? Is it possible? I get
So the entire flow of all of the 30 plus screens is designed to be free flowing. You can move across screens as and when you get information. You can fill any screen as you want.
And this is different from SME, so don't get confused with the SME approach. Here you
That
can
was
move across
sequential.
any
This is free flowing. Yeah. So deep dive of screen 3 is both of these. So these are a set of 6-7 basic go/no-go norms that the bank has set that you have to select to be yes. And these are target market norms that Rajesh was saying to screen the case to be considered worthy of processing. Can we do it in an easier way, because customer gives a lot of data on Excel, a lot of your analysis happens on Excel, a lot of the storage is also on Excel. So what we've tried to do is 3 steps. You download a simple Excel template which is there on ICOS. You enter it, or if you want, you can give it to the customer to fill whatever his management details are, say, or his associate company details, and you can upload. Right. So this is the template. You upload it. It says uploaded successfully, and all of the data gets populated one after the other. This is the example of associate company details. If he has, say, 4-5 things that you have to enter one after the other, you can do it on Excel. So these that come from the field, what we've tried to do is those small eyes that you see on the screen, those are small info tips. If you hover over them, it gives information about that field, what is to be done over there. If it's a critical field, you need to think more and then enter it a bit better. That is what has been embedded into the flow, those small eye dots everywhere. For example, this field is important. The nature of business. Why have you selected this nature of business to be a manufacturing business? And you have to give this reason over here. This is a critical field in the workflow. That's why the small I has been given, so that you understand that this is a major field to fetch. Get automatically popped up. There are 15 flags under 2 categories. There are financial flags and operational flags. We expect not more than 2 to 5 flags to pop up, even though 15 are embedded into the flow.
Of the 2 pillars that we have for Marvel, right? Tomorrow, as we go through the day, we'll obviously deep dive a lot more on QCA, on ICAPS, and some of the new screens we've developed, right? We are actually going to take the help of a dummy case, and each team will be asked to do a walkthrough of the same. So I'm sure like a lot more questions will come tomorrow, but just want